Good morning, class. This is Mrs.Z. Today we are talking about grade 5, mission 5, lesson 16. It's a word problem. We are going to use read, draw, and write strategy to solve this problem. Okay. Kathy spent 3/5 of her money on a necklace and 2/3 of a remainder on a bracelet. If bracelet cost $17, how much money did she have at first? So we just read the question. We figured it out that there are 3/5, so the fractions are fifths at first. And we're thinking about her money. It's all money that she has. So we are using my little rectangular rulers, and let's see if I make a parallel to the edge. I will make that more precision. Ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I want a 5 centimeters because I want a fifths. Okay. I do have a line with fifths. Now I'm gonna use my other triangular rule to make perpendicular lines now too, and I am going to about like this. Ready? One, and I'm gonna go all the way to the end first. Can close my rectangle. And this is represents the whole money that she has. But now, because they're talking about fifths, I'm going to cut this into 5 equal units or parts. Right. Those are all parallel lines. If you keep strong one ruler, you can easily draw parallel lines. So you can have, so now 3/5 of money she spends on necklace. So if we label this is 1, 2, 3/5, this should be 3/5 on necklace. I will just label N for a necklace. I'm going to highlight that just to know how much is the 3/5. Okay. Now, we're going to go back to reading. The next important part is that it says that 2/3 of a remainder. This is remainder. So 2/3 of that is going she spend on a bracelet. How we're going to show now 3 parts of this. If we go horizontally and we cut that into 3 parts, then we will have this. At first, I like just to cut the remaining part so you can see that how much she spent on this. This here represents 1/3 of the remainder, and this is another part that is 2/3 of remainder. But because we're talking about whole money, these units are not equivalent, so we have to cut these parts as well into same units. So I'm going to also just extend the lines, and now I will have 15 same units. Okay, the story says that 2/3 of remainder on she spent on a bracelet. If bracelet, and I will label B for a bracelet, if bracelet costs $17, how much money she have at first? So we need to know the total of the money, but all now we know then she spent, I'll take green, pink. I'll take pink. So this is 1/3 of remainders, and this is another third of remainder. We know that this pink area is actually $17. So what we need to know, how much is 1 unit if 4 units is $17. So this represents $17, all that, right? So the next step would be to use division and say, okay, sharing 17 into the 17 divided into 4, we can think logically, we can think how many fourths are in 17, and we can think, okay, there is 4. So we can say 4 times 4 is 16. So if we use 16 out of 17, we have 1 left, and that can be as a 1/4. 1 out of 4 pieces will have left. We can also use a logic to think that if I have 4 and 1/4, let's see, that's $4 and 1/4 of the next dollar, then I can see that that is 1/4 of a dollar is a quarter, and a quarter value is 25 cents. So we logically can think, oh, that's the same answer. So 4 and 1/2, it really equals, so 4 and 25 cents. So we can use the logic to figure it out, how much is 1 unit. Or we can use our division, and if you are comfortable with that, you can think how many 17 divided into 4 groups, and you can say, all right, if I can share 10, so that would be a 0. There is a 4 groups. Even if you don't know how many fourths are in 17, it would be the good strategy for 5th grade is just say, oh, if this is 1/4, then if I add 1 more, that would be 2/4, and that will make me 8. And then if I add 1 more, that would be 3, and that will make 12. And if I add 4 more, that would be 4/4, and that will make 16. So I cannot go further than this. There are 1, 2, 3, 4/4 into 16. So that, or we can say, okay, 4 times 4 is 16. When I subtract, I got remainder of 1. I can see this as a now fraction answer. It's a 4 and 1/4, out of 4 pieces. But if I needed to show as a decimal answer, I can add my decimal and regroup that at the 0, regroup that dollar into 10 dimes, and I can keep sharing. Now 10 dimes will share into 4 groups. Each group will get 2 dimes, 2 tenths. 2 times 4 is 8, and when I subtract, I got 2 left. I can keep going. I can add another 0 and bring down. What that means, I'm going to change 2 dimes into 20 pennies, and now I'm going to share pennies or hundreds, and each group will get 500. 5 times 4 is 20. I have nothing to share no more. So each of these parts are $4.25. So you have two thinking strategy how you can do that. So 4.25 is one, but I really do have 15 of them. 3 times 5 is 15. So each of these would be 4.25. And I like to label them because if you don't know how to multiply, you can always think logically and add, because multiplication is multiple addition, right? 4.25. Or I'm thinking already about what our question is and what should we answer. So the question they have is that we need to know how much money did she have at first? How much money did she had at first? So when we know 1 unit is 4.25, we know then 3 times 5, there is a 15 units, 5, 10, 15 units. So we can say 15 times 4.25 to find the total money that she had at the beginning. So I'm going to move this a little bit up, and I'm going to use, we need 15 times $4.25. Once again, you can use some logical thinking. You can think about these to be $4 and these to be 25 cents. So you can think partial product. So you can say, okay, 15 times 4, what that gonna bring me? And then I also can see 15 times 0.25. So I break the parts, the wholes and the parts, and multiply. So 15 times 4, I can think about partial product. 4 times 10 is 40, and 4 times 5 is 20. So 40 plus 20 is 16. Right? I can add a decimal after that, so that will help me to place my number correctly. And I'm going to draw the line so my decimal in my next product will appear in on the same line. So now I'm thinking, okay, 15 times 15 quarters, how much is that? If you think 15 quarters, how many quarters makes $1? You can think that. So if 4 quarters makes $1, so that means I have 15 of them. So that means 4 quarters $1, 8 quarters $2, 12 quarters would be the $3, and then I will have a 3 quarters left. So practically I will have $3.75 when you use a logic. All right. So, but if you like to do and think about this to be 15 times 2500, you can use a standard algorithm and you can multiply 15 times 25. So 5 times 5 is 25. 5, I remember 2. I'm done with one part. Now 5 times 1 is 5, and plus 2 is 7. So 5 times 15 is really 75. I'm done with ones. So I'm going to add the 0 because I'm multiplying now with tens. This is not 2, that's 20. So this represents the 0 from the 20. 2 times 5 is 10, another 0, I remember 1. I use this and cross it off. And then 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. Now So what this logically means is 20 times 15 is 300. When we add digits, then we got 375. But what they are? 375. These are hundreds or pennies. So hundreds. We need to show that this is 375 hundreds, not the whole numbers. So that means that we will actually have $3.75 when we multiply 15 times 0 wholes and 25 hundredths. All right. What is left now is to add these two parts. And then 5 is 0, 7. The decimal gonna appear in the same line. And we found out how much money that she has at first. She had at first. So the last thing is to write, because we're using read, draw, and write. We read, we draw, we calculate, and then we also write our answer in writing. So we can use the language from the question. So when we look back, it says, how much money did she have at first? We can say that at first she had, instead of have, we can use had. She had $63.75, right? I'm going to go down and say at first Kathy had dollar symbol and 63.75, right? At first, Kathy had the $63.75. So now we can make it smaller so you can see all the work that we have done. All right. So this was a lesson 16 word problem. We use the strategy read, draw, and write. We draw our area model of a fraction, and we use logical thinking, and then we also prove it by algebraically work, and then we finally write our answer in words. All right, guys, this was Mrs. Z. I hope you liked it and you learned from me. I love you. Bye.